We have always attempted, and I hope that over the course of the last 500 videos, we have brought forward the facts and brought them forward clearly and presented them as they were, there for anyone to critique and look at. And in our last video, when we started looking at Ronan Flynn's statement and his involvement in the framing of Aaron, we were unclear in relation to the person Ronan Flynn was contacting via the text messages. When we're working at this, it is very, very difficult always to see clarity. When you see someone actively trying to recruit people to tell lies, to frame someone for a murder, it's absolutely abhorrent, it's disgusting, and it is very, very hard to deal with, particularly when it is your son that has been framed. I want to make it abundantly clear, the young man Christopher, whom Ronan Flynn was contacting, in no way took any part or had any contact or any association with the authorities in respect of Aaron's trial or indeed the investigation. I probably didn't make that clear enough, and we do apologise for that, because we like to bring clarity to everything we put forward. So just wanted to clear that little point up. That young man, who was propositioned by his cousin, took no active part in any of this pathetic, illegal skullduggery that was undertaken by Ronan Flynn, McPhillips, Pat Murray, Garda Paul Gill, Garda Jim McGovern, and then extended into Pat Murray, Brendan Grehan and Logan Staines. All those are the main players, and this young man had nothing to do with it. And it's only after we released the last video, when I watched it back, I realised I didn't make that clear enough. So for clarity, Christopher had nothing got to do with any of this abhorrent behaviour. So we're going to move on now and look at Ronan's dates and meetings with An Garda Siochana, and this is the document, the affidavit sworn by Neil Manley, Aaron's first solicitor, and it's the words of MePhillips and the lies of MePhillips into the meetings and the dealings with Ronan Flynn. So let's have a look at that now. Thank you. In our previous video, we showed quite clearly where Ronan Flynn actively tried to recruit someone to tell lies against Aaron and the Flynn brothers, someone who had no knowledge or no information whatsoever about what happened at the Lordship Credit Union on the 25th of January 2013. We've seen what Ronan tried to do. He was recruiting people for Agent Matt Katzke and for detectives McPhillips and Paul Gill, recruiting people to tell lies. So we've seen that. We're going to move on now, and we have the affidavit here that was created by Aaron's first solicitor, Neil Manley, and it raises the questions. This whole booklet raises the questions about the interactions of An Garda Siochana and Homeland Security agents with the criminals in New York. And this scenario is repeated and repeated and repeated. We've shown it quite clearly with Anthony Gerard Maguire, shown it very clearly with Christopher Morton, and obviously we've shown it crystal clear with Daniel Cahill. And the same now applies to this criminal here, Ronan Flynn. So we're going to run through this affidavit, and we'll see how absolutely disgusting the behaviour of these people is. So there's only 2 pages. We'll get through it as quickly as possible, and we will put the 2 pages in underneath in the description box below beneath the video. Okay, so this has got to do with Ronan Flynn and the Homeland Security investigations, and this is a relevant portion of their report. On October the 24th, 2017, Special Agents Mary Ann Wade and Mathew Katzke detained and interviewed Ronan Flynn with the assistance of ERO New York. That's an immigration removal officer. Now, the whole point here is Kerry Bretz, a man with over 30 years experience in immigration law in New York, one of the most experienced immigration lawyers in New York, give evidence in Aaron's trial that Daniel Cahill's feet shouldn't have touched the ground after he was arrested. And we have to go back to Pat Murray telling us all these people came forward. And here is the official documents from Homeland Security saying that Ronan Flynn was detained, arrested. You can play with words any way you like, and the truth is in the writing when we dig down into the facts and the evidence. So the immigration removal officers there, and as you see, Ronan Flynn was wanted. He was on the run. There was an extradition warrant for his arrest, and yet he was allowed to stay in America. Plus those drug charges. But we'll cover that as we go along. But the attendance of an ERO and anyone with relatives in America, anyone living in America that's illegal or the paperwork's not right, know that when an ERO is in attendance and you are detained or arrested, your next move is out of America. Next flight out of America, you're back to Dublin or Belfast or wherever it is you flew from. And Flynn told special agents Wade and Katzke that he would like to speak with the members of An Garda Siochana. Flynn was transported to, redacted the addresses, and provided a witness declaration to the Garda. A measure of how meagre this account is can be inferred from a report written by D.I. Phillips. It is to be noted that the report is only written in September of this year, that's 2019, but yet contains much detail which is date specific. This suggests that this and the other reports are based on materials not yet disclosed to the defence. So we have said this from day one, that information and vital information has been withheld from Aaron. And here we have in a legal document being told, it's quite clear that this suggests that this and the other reports are based on material not yet disclosed to the defence. So we had none of this. None of this. Only McPhillips comes forward. What we're going to look at now is McPhillips' own words. So we've had this that he wanted to talk to. We're going to move on now to Mr. Phillips's, Mark Phillips's report. D.I. Phillips met Ronan Flynn on August 31st, 2017 at his place of work. He asked Ronan Flynn was he willing to be interviewed by An Garda Siochana. Ronan Flynn agreed and an appointment was made for the following day, September the 1st. Ronan Flynn subsequently cancelled the meeting. In October 2017, An Garda Siochana members returned to New York hoping to interview Ronan Flynn if he was willing, i.e. had he changed his mind. On arrival, they were apparently informed by Homeland Security that they had discovered an immigration issue affecting Ronan Flynn. They had a warrant for his arrest. HSI informed D.I. Phillips that once the matters in relation to the warrant had been processed, Ronan Flynn would be asked if he wished to speak to members of An Garda Siochana. This is absolutely immense piece of information. And because it is covered in broad strokes, to all intents and purposes, it looks relatively innocuous. But here we have that Mark Phillips is telling us here. Mark Phillips is telling us that they returned to New York and Homeland Security knew about the warrant for Ronan's arrest. Now, there is a caveat here. There's a possibility what they're talking about here is a warrant for Ronan's arrest because he was caught with drugs in America too. Let's not forget that. Apart from the grievous bodily harm and the extradition warrant for that offence, plus he had other drugs offences here in Ireland, we can't be 1,000,000% sure. But this paragraph tells us that Homeland Security met McPhillips, and everyone then became aware that there was an issue with Ronan. Now, what's very, very important here is that they had spoken to Ronan, you'll see there in the first line of that paragraph, on the 31st of August, 2017. They returned in October 2017, as you can see at the start of the second paragraph. And on arrival, they were apparently informed by HSI. Now, the guards were informed by HSI. The man who arrested Ronan Flynn in Carlingford for the drugs and was involved in Ronan's assault charges, and Ronan subsequently absconded to America, is Detective Paul Gill. He was there. Now, if and when we get our freedom of information, we need to know, and indeed the public are entitled to know, and most certainly Aaron and Aaron's defence team must know, did An Garda Siochana withhold the information about Ronan's criminality here in Ireland and hope that Homeland Security would miss it? That is what it looks like between August and October, that they were taking the chance that Homeland Security wouldn't pick up on it and the guards could get at Ronan. So them two paragraphs there carries a myriad of information and shows clearly, perfectly highlights how this whole operation was undertaken by An Garda Siochana. Upon arrest, see again, he's arrested again. So he's detained and he's arrested. And Pat Marry's sitting at a lake telling us approximately 5 people came forward. You're a fucking liar, Pat Marry. You're a disgrace. To go on national television and write books and go on podcasts and make money from what you have done in this case. Upon arrest, Ronan Flynn was agreeable to be interviewed, but wanted proof that the An Garda Siochana were present in New York. Detective Sergeant Gill, as he now is, who knew Ronan Flynn, travelled to the point of arrest to confirm An Garda Siochana's presence. It is perhaps noteworthy that this was all done before matters in relation to processing the warrant had been done. It's there in black and white. This deal couldn't have been any dirtier. Now, obviously, Ronan's arrested, and they're trying to tell us here that Ronan was agreeable and he wanted proof that An Garda Siochana were there. Let's read Ronan's text message. They arrested me at my job in front of a whole bar full of people. I lost my job. They held me handcuffed with 7 carloads of police and told me I was going home. I'll never see my wife and child again on some bullshit about Tommy Eccles' case that was fake paper, kept me handcuffed to the side of the cell, busted into my house with no warrant to search it, made an example of me over here, took my interview for my 10-year green card, and that because I told them when I got the lawyer, I want my statement taken off this. It was a forced fake statement. The guard basically wrote it himself, and so for that, they took my file from immigration because it wouldn't help them with that, because I wouldn't help them with the Aaron Brady case. I was trying to expose them. And this is the reason, probably when you listen to some of that, and people are now aware that Ronan has been in contact with the Brady family, and he just hasn't had the courage of his convictions to stand up and be counted and tell the full truth to the public. Ronan thinks this is going away. It's not going away. And all these people, subpoenas will have to be issued to them all, and the truth will have to be told. And they can't tell lies anymore because we have the information. We have the truth. The truth is here, and there is no explanation in the world can explain why Ronan Flynn wasn't deported in October 2017. And again, it appears that Ronan Flynn was released after being interviewed. This was unusual. Ronan Flynn was a fugitive. A European arrest warrant had issued with respect to alleged offences under the Section 4 of the Non-Fatal Offences Non-Fatal Offences Against the Person Act 1997. The offence had been alleged to have taken place in October 2011. Ronan Flynn had allegedly attacked a man in a bar and smashed a snooker ball into his face. I think for clarity there, I think it may have been Ronan's father who hit Tommy Eccles with the pool ball. As far as I can ascertain from the statements of the witnesses in the bar that night, Ronan left the pool room, took off his shirt and jumper, came back in and hit Tommy Eccles with a Coca-Cola bottle. Now, we have those statements and we'll release those as well. The witness statements from that night in the bar in Cooley Peninsula. It would appear that members of the investigation team were unaware of the charge and only learned of it when it was brought to their attention on November the 20th, that a warrant for the arrest of Ronan Flynn was outstanding. So, when we dig down into the evidence, there is no explanation and the whole thing is a complete fucking mess. So we have to believe that nobody knew about the arrest warrants in August. There's people didn't know about the arrest warrants in October 2017 and it wasn't officially dealt with until November the 20th when the horse dealing and the trading continued. It is disgusting. And here it is in black and white, and these are the official documents. We just move on to page 2. Responsibility for executing the warrant rested with the Garda Division of Louth, the same division that was investigating the murder of Detective Garda Adrian Donoghue. So again, very pertinent point. We could see through it if Ronan was wanted by the Gardaí in Donegal, Kerry, Waterford. That there may be some window of an excuse there. This is the home of Fort Apache, as Pat Murray called it, where the incident room was. Detective Paul Gill was up to his neck in it. Totally criminal what Paul Gill done here. And it's there in black and white for our Irish judicial system to look at. Paul Gill was instrumental in the back of the SUV telling Ronan, you will never see your wife and child again on some bullshit about Tommy Eccles' case. So Paul Gill was instrumental and Ronan has told us that, and when we dig down into all the recordings, and we have played some of these recordings where I've spoken to Ronan and he's told us of Paul Gill and McPhillips in the back of the SUV. And we cannot forget the immigration removal officer was standing outside that SUV. Ronan should have been deported. Some statements from witnesses have been disclosed to the defence. The charges arose out of an incident that occurred in a public house. It is alleged that Ronan Flynn had struck Tommy Eccles in the eye with a snooker ball. Earlier, Eccles had been involved in arguments with PJ Flynn, father of Ronan Flynn. The DPP directed that the father and son be charged with the assault causing serious harm to Tommy Eccles. Ronan Flynn left the jurisdiction and in due course an extradition warrant was applied for. His father was tried for the Section 4 offence and was acquitted. So Ronan's father, PJ, has been acquitted of the attack on Tommy Eccles and Ronan had absconded. And a warrant was issued for his arrest. And these are the people that Brendan Graham stood up and lauded in the courtroom. On top of a drug dealer like Anthony Gerard Maguire, who abandoned his partner and his children and absconded to America. Christopher Morton, stealing from those he worked with, absconded to America. Daniel Cahill, involved with the Real IRA and the Ryan gang, parading himself on a podcast connected to his business in America, telling people he wants to sell children for prostitution. These are the people you are standing behind, Brendan Graham. These are the people that you have lauded as pillars of society. On December the 2nd, Senior Investigating Officer Mary instructed Cian Reedy to make contact with Mr. Eccles. Detective Sergeant Reedy ascertained that the injured party was prepared to withdraw his complaint if Ronan offered an apology. The apology sought was quite specific. Ronan Flynn had to withdraw an allegation that Eccles had threatened Ronan Flynn or his father with the IRA, and he also had to admit assaulting him. So you will hear when we move into the conversations I have with Ronan Flynn on tapes that we have recorded, that Ronan Flynn denies this ever happened. And yet we have it here on official documents. We have the letter here from the solicitor where Tommy Eccles has rescinded his charges against Ronan Flynn. It couldn't be any dirtier. So Pat Murray gets involved, gets Cian Reedy, another detective heavily involved in the framing of Aaron, go to Tommy Eccles, and for some reason, Mr. Eccles drops the charges against Ronan Flynn. We're totally unsure if this message went across to Tommy Eccles, this written apology from Ronan. We have no record of it, other than it's McPhillips tells us in this document here. But Ronan Flynn, as you will hear when we go through the tapes I have recorded with Ronan Flynn, that Ronan Flynn point blank denies that there was ever any apology passed over to Tommy Eccles. And indeed, Ronan Flynn's father denied that any apology was passed to Tommy Eccles. Now, there's a possibility, we can throw out endless possibilities, but there's a possibility Cian Reedy and Pat Murray wrote the apology and give it to Tommy Eccles. So that's entirely up to the Flynns to find out if they didn't issue an apology, who gave the apology to Tommy Eccles. Because it said here, the condition, see, there's conditions in dropping the charges. They're doing deals everywhere. This is what to think of Adrian Donahue. Tommy Eccles drops the charges on the basis that there's an apology given, and that the injured party, and he also also had admitted to assaulting him. So he had to drop all those charges. It's absolutely, it's just disgusting. It's never-ending disgust with these people. Murray then contacted Agent Katzke in Homeland Security and relayed to him that the injured party was looking for a written apology. Ronan Flynn duly obliged and wrote out an apology on December the 10th. This was relayed to the complainant 3 days later, the same day, December the 13th. The injured party withdrew his complaint against Ronan Flynn via his solicitor. So there you go. It's there in black and white. If we came without official documents and told, imagine telling this story, that a man got battered in a pub, had taken criminal charges against these people, and I will also put the link to the press reports on the incident in the bar, where Tommy Eccles gives his point of view of the assault in the bar. And puff, magic, Pat Murray, Cian Reedy, McPhillips, Paul Gill, all involved in making the charges disappear. But the interesting thing is the Flynns deny what is said on this paragraph here, that Ronan wrote out an apology. You will hear that in the tapes soon to be. We'll do that in another video. I beg to refer you to a copy of the letter, which is initialed NIN6. And there we have it up on the screen. We have been instructed by our client Tommy Eccles concerning the above referenced prosecution, the case involving PJ Flynn, which was determined at the Circuit Court at Dundalk some time ago, when the case against PJ Flynn was dismissed. The case remains live insofar as there is a bench warrant for the arrest of Ronan Flynn, whom we understand has left the jurisdiction. Now, this is the 14th of December 2017. So there is still a live warrant for Ronan Flynn when this solicitor wrote this letter. It is the purpose of this letter to confirm that our client, Mr. Tommy Eccles, no longer wishes to proceed with the matter, and we are instructed to inform you that he wishes to formally withdraw his complaint on personal grounds. He has confirmed in the presence of the writer that he is not under duress or pressure to withdraw his complaint and has not been threatened or pressurised in any way to withdraw the complaint. Mr. Eccles has instructed us to notify you, therefore, that he wishes you to discontinue the prosecution and make whatever application is necessary to the court to finalise matters with regards to the withdrawal of his complaint. If you wish to contact the writer to discuss the same, please do not hesitate to do so. There we go. Deal done. Tommy Eccles has withdrawn his complaint. There's it there, black and white, in on the solicitor's beheaded paper. So we go back. So the solicitor brings us to this. I beg you to refer to a copy of the letter which is initialed M6, which I have signed my name prior to swearing off. The letter states that the complaint has been withdrawn on personal grounds. Nowhere is there any mention of a written apology or the role played by the Senior Investigating Officer, Garda Investigation, Mary or Katzke in Homeland Security in procuring it. So it's all just rotten to the core. Like a lot of the information we have shown you, when you dig down into it, it is so corrupt. It is gut-wrenching. The solicitor's letter withdrawing the complaint was forwarded the next day to the Director of Public Prosecution, who advised earlier in the new year that the statement of withdrawal be obtained from Mr. Eccles. Once again, things happened with lightning speed. A statement was procured from him on January 31st and forwarded to the DPP, who on the February the 18th informed the US authorities that the extradition request in respect of Ronan Flynn has been withdrawn. I beg to refer you to a copy of the statement of withdrawal marked NF7, which I have signed my name prior to the swearing hereof. And there's NM7 and statement of Tommy Eccles. And again, you can see it's by Detective Kieran Reedy. You can see it there on the top, An Garda Siochana. Further to my solicitor's letter on the 14th of December 2017 concerning my assault complaint against Ronan Flynn, I wish to state that I now wish to withdraw my complaint. This statement has been read over to me and is correct. And you can see from the date on it there's the 31st of January. So this was done for the benefit of the DPP, Brendan Graham and Susan Hudson. The solicitor for the state, Brendan Graham, the chief prosecutor for the state. This letter is specifically for them to save their backs, to cover their arses. And that is what that letter is for. You can see there from Neil Manley, the director. I'll just read this paragraph again, because again, it's vitally important we see the depth of the corruption here. The solicitor's letter withdrawing a complaint was forwarded the next day to the DPP, who advised early in the new year that a statement of withdrawal be obtained. So the DPP advised, DPP asked, requested. Let's cover our arses because, read the last line, or the second last line, informed the US authorities that the extradition request in respect of Ronan Flynn had been withdrawn. Gone. Extradition warrant disappeared. That's another one. We do remember Anthony Gerard Maguire, his extradition warrant. Where did it go to? It's just never ending, the corruption, when we look into what these people have done. It is to be noted that the statement of withdrawal is similarly silent on the admissions made by Ronan Flynn and the apology. It is unclear whether the DPP was made aware of what had gone on in the background and which led to the complaint being withdrawn. This needs to be clarified. Of course it needs to be clarified. Susan Hudson, Brendan Graham, did you know that Ronan Flynn was a drug dealer? Of course you did. Did you know there was an extradition warrant for Ronan Flynn? Of course you did. It was a European arrest warrant. It would have been on your radar. And if An Garda Siochana or whoever is prosecuting the case comes forward with a list of witnesses, you must vet that witness. You must run them through the system. You put Ronan Flynn's name into the DPP computer, there'll be little lights flashing. Now, Neil Manley says here, Aaron's solicitor says that it's unclear. I'm saying it's as clear as day. Susan Hudson, Brendan Graham knew exactly what Ronan Flynn was. A drug-dealing criminal who was on the run. And Pat Murray, Mark Phillips and Paul Gill were doing deals with him to tell lies, which we have shown quite clearly on the video clips released of a statement. When we go through his whole statement, it's absolutely horrendous when we go through the whole video of a statement. But we've seen he got his lines wrong and Mark Phillips had to correct him. There were several meetings with Ronan Flynn and An Garda Siochana after the interview. All were arranged through Homeland Security. No detail has been provided by Mark Phillips. None. Just do whatever you like and don't give the defence the information. That is vital. And I suppose, just read the last line here. In June 2018, Ronan Flynn was charged in the USA with drugs offences. No further information other than the existence of the charge was available to D.I. Phillips at the time of compiling his report. So that's an affidavit. So Mark Phillips, you've laid an affidavit. You mean to tell me, does anyone in Ireland believe that Mark Phillips didn't know about Ronan Flynn's drug charges in America? He most certainly knew every detail of it. Katzke told them every detail of it. Ronan was getting a green card for his family, getting green cards for his family, his sister Emma Jane, and he still couldn't behave himself. He's still selling drugs. And when we've gone through these 2 pages, we have to look at the court case that was brought against Aaron for allegedly intimidating this man. Now, it's quite clear the man told nothing, only lies. We've seen that in his video, and we will go into that in more detail. His criminal record leaves him totally ineligible to be a witness in any case, let alone a capital murder case. The accusations that the Bradys in some way wanted to intimidate this man, nothing could be further from the truth. And we believe the information on these 2 pages, imagine we wanted Ronan Flynn on the stand. We wanted Ronan Flynn to be subpoenaed and brought into court. Because Ronan Flynn's statement, when, for example, because Ronan Flynn was allegedly in attendance at the same time as Molly Staunton made her statement about Aaron ranting and raving. And the 2 statements, Ronan Flynn's statement and Molly's statement, are totally at odds with each other. And it's something we will deal with at a later stage. So any belief that we wanted to intimidate this man, nothing could be further from the truth. We wanted Ronan Flynn in the courtroom. And Garda Siochana, Garda Pádraig Reilly, as far as we're concerned, released the clips of Ronan's statement onto the internet. Now, Aaron did record them. And that is what Aaron pleaded guilty to, recording them and sending them to someone else. But it was never our intention, or Aaron's intention, for them to go on the World Wide Web, because it was totally detrimental to Aaron's case. Now, Ronan Flynn has had several chances to come and explain his case properly. He still has, because the DPP, Ronan, and PJ Flynn and Emma Jane Flynn, the DPP have appealed Aaron's sentencing for the intimidation of your family. And I have Ronan on text messages and on voice recordings telling the truth. The Bradys never intimidated any of the Flynns. And again, like the 500 videos in the campaign from November 2019, that nothing can be contradicted. The Flynns can't contradict us. We have been nothing only respectful to Ronan and the pressure he was put under. And we have said to Ronan personally, and we have said on Aaron's campaign, we understand the pressure he was put under that day. He was arrested, told he was going to be deported, never see his wife and family again. And we do know that Ronan would have feared somewhat for his safety on his return to the Cooley Peninsula. So all them issues were at play. So the Flynns still have the opportunity to do the right thing when it comes to the appeal that the DPP are appealing. They say Aaron's sentence for the what was it? Attempting the possible attempt of tendency. Tendency is the word I'm looking. Tendency to pervert the course of justice. There's nothing about intimidation in it. Nothing specific about. No one has made a complaint. The Flynns have never made a complaint about the Bradys, about Aaron or the Brady family. Never. So that's where we are in relation to Ronan. We have a number of other videos to continue it. Bring in other text messages Ronan has sent us. The guards assaulting and abusing Ronan on the street in New York. It is continuous and endless. And obviously we have to look into Ronan's statement and the nonsense of that was in that, and the lies that Ronan was forced to tell. And he tells us here, this is Ronan's text messages. I want my statement taken off this. It was a forced fake statement. The guard basically wrote it himself. So, and we know that's a fact because Anthony Gerard Maguire told us the same story, and indeed the other drug dealer in Boston, Matt Flaherty, said the guards wrote a statement and showed him pictures of Aaron in the newspaper. So that's where we are. It's there in black and white. It's an official document. It'll be in the description below, and we'll also put the link to the Flynn trial in relation to the attack on Tommy Eccles. So that'll all be in the description box below the video. Thank you once again, and we'll see you all in the next video. Thank you.